Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Princess Beyond Passions. My name is Princess. I am going to talk about empathy in relationships, particularly in intimate relationships. I am going to react to some videos. When we get into the videos, we will understand the types of empathy and how empathy is useful in intimate relationships. Now, we have to understand that there are some people who cannot empathize, right? Who don't feel empathy at all. But today, I'm not going to get into that. So, without much ado, let's get into the first video.
Did you know that research has identified 3 types of empathy? There's cognitive empathy, the ability to identify the emotion someone else feels, emotional or affective empathy, feeling what someone else feels, also known as vicariously sharing the emotion, and compassionate empathy, feeling concern and compassion for someone else. Which of these do you think is most important? Well, research suggests it's compassionate empathy, because beyond just knowing and feeling, you're actually driven to do something. Here are 5 questions you can ask yourself to develop the empathy muscle. What's going on for this person right now? What might they be feeling? Have I ever felt this way, and what was it like? What's important to them, and what do they want? And how can I help?
Did we get that? There are 3 types of empathy. She told us the one that is the most important empathy. That is the compassionate empathy, the ability to feel what someone else feels and do something about it. It's not just feeling, but do something about it, right? So there's a difference between empathy and sympathy. For some of us who might say, oh, but I sympathize with. No, it's not enough to sympathize. Sympathize is you feel and you don't do anything about what that person is feeling. But to empathize, particularly the compassionate empathy, is you feel what that person is feeling and you actually go ahead to do something about what that person is feeling. This is what I am talking about today, and this is what people in relationships and people in marriages and people who have intimate relationships, this is the kind of empathy that you should have for your partners, for your spouse. This is what we are talking about today. Please don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section. Let's go on to the next video.
Empathy is important in every relationship, in my opinion, but I think it's especially important in romantic relationships, specifically if you live together, because the best way to get along with somebody is to understand where they're coming from, and you can't do that if you can't empathize. 2 examples of this are, so I like to have the bed made before we get in it, and it doesn't matter if it's been made all day, I will make it right before we get in it, and this used to drive my husband nuts. For him, he likes, if he goes to pick up food, for me to have the drinks ready when he gets home. I could never understand this, and it used to drive me nuts. When we first moved in together, these became contentious issues that caused little arguments. It wasn't until we talked about it and I told him that it's a comfort thing for me. I don't understand it, but it's always been that way. I had a traumatic childhood, and that was one thing that brought me comfort. For him, that's just what his parents did, and so that's what he was used to. Once we understood why it was important for the other person, it was a whole lot easier to just do it.
You need to discuss with your partner, understand why they do what they do, to be able to empathize with them. Once you are able to understand why that person does what he or she does in that relationship, then you'll be able to empathize with the person. You'll be able to feel what that person feels and understand if it is something that came from childhood. So if you check one of my videos, this is one of the reasons I said you also need to ask a lot of questions. But hey, we can't blame ourselves, we can't beat ourselves, because we cannot be able to think of all the questions, know what might come up in future, and then begin to ask. Check the video in the description to see the questions that you can ask. Now that apart, let's get back. Once you understand why your partner does the things he or she does, then you will know where they're coming from and how to empathize with the person, how to be compassionate with the person, and how to do something about that thing. So let's get into the next video. The next video is a case study as well as the second video, so let's get into it.
Well, I'm talking to a client earlier and he tells me, Tim, it's like my wife makes intimacy a chore. And he said, You know, it's like every time my wife begrudgingly, right, doesn't really want to be intimate with me, it's like I feel like I gotta force it. And it feels so forced and awkward. And I said, yeah, because you're missing one valuable part. What's the bridge to intimacy? It's empathy. Empathy is the bridge to intimacy. And so you have a lack of empathy in your relationship. What's empathy? Emotional understanding, validating your wife, making her feel seen and heard, like I always say. Right? You're spending all this time on your business and all these other areas of your life, but you're not investing in one of the greatest assets that you have, which is your marriage.
Let's pause right there. Did you hear what he said? This is what a lot of women are going through in their marriages. Are you spending a lot of time pursuing work and making money, and when your wife seeks your attention, you tell her that you are making money to put food on the table for your family, but you forget the person who is your partner in this relationship? I just wanted to emphasize that because we've discussed this in my live streams before, and people have actually talked about, you know, attention, the place of attention to your wife in a marriage relationship. So let's continue.
And so when your wife doesn't feel like she's valued in the marriage, when there's no empathy in the marriage, right? When you don't want to see things from her perspective, when you don't reflect back to her how she's feeling and start to become, right, curious instead of defensive. Let me say that again, start to become curious instead of defensive. Like, what is she going through? What is she feeling right now? That's empathy, seeking to understand rather than being guarded, defensive, and stonewalling. When your wife starts to feel the empathy in the marriage, right? She starts to feel like my husband cares. He values my opinion. He values my preferences. He values my thoughts. He values what I think, how I feel. He values what I do. When you don't feel the need to have to be superior in the marriage, exalt yourself over your wife, and basically deny her own reality. Empathy is the bridge to intimacy. When you create that empathy in the marriage, your sex life is going to change because your wife is going to feel like she's valued, she's important.
Let's pause right there. So, you need to value the reality of your partner in your marriage relationship. What is the reality of your partner? Listen to your partner. Find out what he or she is going through and why he or she is going through that thing. You just feel, oh, your wife denies you of sex without finding out why she is feeling like that. Has she been like that from the beginning? I mean, if she was like that from the beginning, you wouldn't marry her, would you? It came in at some point. Why not discuss this thing with this woman? Find out why she is telling you that sex has become like work for her. It's like a chore in your marriage relationship. Something must have driven her to that point. So instead of forcing her, because some men force their wives, instead of forcing her into it or emotionally blackmailing her into submission, she's your wife. Find out why she is feeling like that, what got her to this point, and then seek solution to it. You want to seek therapy? You want to seek counseling? Is it medical? Seek medical attention. Find a solution to what your partner is going through. Do not ignore the reality of your partner. Let's go on with this video.
Intimacy just isn't transactional. A lot of you guys, it's like, you don't understand. Your business might be transactional, but your marriage and your sex life isn't. And so why does it feel hollow? Why does it feel empty? It's hollow and empty because you don't invest in it. Because in business, your same power through attitude, you can use that in business, but you can't bring that same attitude into your house. You got to meet a more calm, emotionally present version of yourself. In relationships are where our deepest needs are met as human beings. And here's the thing, if you're not meeting your own deepest needs, which are what? To be at my full potential, to love myself, have a healthy relationship with myself. A lot of you guys are saying, but Tim, I'm in a toxic relationship. Check it out, bro. You can't determine whether or not you're in a toxic relationship until you change the toxic relationship you have with yourself first. So let's start there. You can sit back, point the finger at your wife, blame her for why you're miserable and why you're unhappy. And you can, entertain a plan B about leaving, about being single, about ending the marriage. But how could you ever do that if you don't have closure? And you know how you get closure? This is how you get closure. By knowing that you did everything that you could to be the best version of yourself. So that if you do need to walk away, you can do it with your head held high with integrity, honor, and knowing that you went all in on being the best version of you first. Before you just ran away and escaped and looked for something better. Only to come to find out for whatever you thought was better wasn't. Because wherever you go, there you are. Stop avoiding the work you need to do.
I hope we are learning from these videos. I would appreciate that the conversation continues in the comment section. Please leave a comment. If you have not subscribed, consider to subscribe to my channel. And if you like this particular video, give it a thumb up and share it. I'll see you in my next video.